Hi everyone, it's May here with Alicia Stringer. Thanks so much for being on my Facebook wall, being friend, follower. I appreciate you watching this live or the replay. Today we're going to have a summary of this book, Financial Freedom, A Proven Path to All A Proven Path to All the Money You Will Ever Need. Okay, Proven Path to All the Money You'll Ever Need by Great Sabatier. All right. So this book was very interesting. And it talks about how to create financial freedom by saving up basically one big number that you figure out in your head, but not as big as you think. So before I begin, my name again is May Dodo. I live in Waikiki in this 3-bedroom condo. We live here and we have another condo down the street, which is an Airbnb business. But back in 2011, I had no property. I was in debt. Over $40,000 of debt, various credit cards, lines of credit. By 2016, I paid it all off in April. And December 23rd, 2016 was my last day working at a job here at a local bank. I became a full-time mother. Part-time, I started coaching clients to do what I did. And my blog is yesfinanciallyfree.com. So the link below here is the blog. If you go on the right side of the blog, there is a place you can put in your name and email address, and you get a free ebook, Working Parents Guide to Financial Freedom, sent directly to your inbox. All right. So that's my story. And Alicia, why don't you tell them who you are, where you're from?
Sure. I am in Houston, Texas, and from Houston. And I love helping entrepreneurs market their business on social media and teach piano and voice here in Houston, Texas. And
it's a big thing. She teaches piano and voice. It's a big thing, actually.
Making a new studio, it's exciting.
Starting a new studio and it's exciting. I don't know why her voice keeps going down when she talks about the major events of her life. But anyway, keep going.
I think it's the nervousness and excitement.
Yes, it's like the most important thing. She's like quiet, like, oh, I teach studio and dance voice, and I'm doing a new studio, but you know.
Yes, it's exciting to grow like that. And I love listening to May and all her wisdom in the books. I would love to get back to some of my blogs and share some of my book insights too. But the studio is kind of full force here this month. So trying to get that set up and rolling. And then I see some future learning. So I'm here to learn more from May's reviews and get little bits of wisdom from what people are reading. And if you can't read full books or, you know, some summaries and get some insights, some different opinions from it. So I'm looking forward to hearing some new things. Right?
Yeah. So let's begin, right? So Grant's story is really similar to mine in a sense. His is more, well, it's different, but it's similar. In 2010, it's a little different. Okay. He lost his job in 2010 during the Great Recession. And he ended up going and moving in with his parents. And he only had $2.26 to his name because he had already sold his car. You know how it is. He had no money, right? So he sold everything he had, and then he was down to nothing, and then he went and moved in with his parents. So this is what happened to him, okay? He's a millennial. He likes to talk about that a lot. He talks about his generation and what millennials go through and stuff like that. So basically, he was at home, and his parents said he could move in, but they wouldn't give him any money, and he had to be out in 3 months, okay? But he could live there and eat their food. So to me, he was rich, honestly. But anyway, whatever. Beside that. Okay, because if you can pay for your rent and your food, geez, I mean, isn't that what we're all paying for these days? Anyway, so moving on. Anyway, he had $2.26 in cash, and one of his biggest motivators was he really wanted to buy Chipotle and he couldn't. Okay, so this is a millennial boy. All right, I understand. If as long as it's motivating, it doesn't care. It don't matter what it is, right? So anyway, he decided he had to do something different than what he had been doing for the last 2 years, which was basically bouncing between jobs, trying to find a good job, but not really liking what he was doing, living paycheck to paycheck, getting in credit card debt, all kinds of stuff, right? So he finally hit wit's end, living with his parents, sent out 200 resumes in a month and got 0 callbacks. Okay. 200 resumes, but that was when they were laying off everyone. Great Recession, remember, it was everything 2010. It was like stock market plunging, everyone was going crazy. I actually got my job during the Great Recession, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, moving on. So we're a little bit different in our stories, but basically he had no job and he started realizing he had to do something different with his life. He didn't want to work a job where he hated it in a cubicle, right? He didn't want to do that. I don't think have you done that ever, worked a job in a cubicle, Alicia?
No, never.
It sucks. I have.
Sorry.
Alicia's never done that, so she doesn't. Oh my gosh, cubicle. Yeah. Oh, this is my cubicle. Well, it depends how big the cubicle is. My husband works in a cubicle, but the good thing about his job is he doesn't have to stay in it. He gets to go out and drive out and do. His job is basically to go out on the road, which is what he likes to do. So, but yeah, cubicles. I don't know if anyone likes cubicles. Anyway, so he created a system. I'm going to share it with you now really quickly because I'm going to take Jordan to school soon. So basically that's his motivation. So by 2010, he had $2.26. By 2015, he was a millionaire, saved up $1 million in 5 years, and he had enough money to be financially free and never work again. Boom, end of story. So what did he do? He ended up studying a lot from Vicki Robbins and the people who wrote the book, Your Money or Your Life. I don't know if I have that book easily. We've been studying that book recently in our mastermind, but Your Money or Your Life. Where is it? All right, anyway, I don't have it. Oh, there it is. Your Money or Your Life, Vicki Robbins, Joe Dominguez, that book. So he studied with them, right? Especially Vicki. And in that book, they basically save up for a number 2. Okay, they have a financial freedom number. But what they do in that book, because it was written a long time ago, is they put the money in US Treasury bonds and they live off the interest. But in this day and age, you cannot do that because the interest in a US Treasury bond is very low. Okay, so this is kind of the updated version of that training from back then. Instead of saving up money, putting in Treasury bonds, he saved it and put it in stocks. That's what he did. So he says, due to various studies, if you put your money in stocks, 100% in stocks, or it's different, he has tables actually that show the percentages you need in stocks, but we'll just use 100%. Okay. If you put 100% of your money in stocks and you take out 4% annually, you can live off that for the rest of your life. If the 4% is what you need to live off of. Okay. So how do you figure out your number? How much would you need to live off of for a year? So he used the number 50,000. Okay. If I have 50,000 a year, I can live and I'll be fine. All right. That's my number. All right. Okay. And he lives in Chicago or I think somewhere like that. So the cost of living isn't too high. He doesn't live in Hawaii. Okay. Which apparently is the highest cost of living in the country, according to a new study.
He lives in Houston now. I've heard some other. Sure.
So,
where's your brother live? That's pretty affordable.
My brother is living in Bogota right now. Apparently one of the lowest cost of living in the world. And so depending on where you live, your number can be bigger or smaller, right?
Oh, yes.
Alicia's kind of like, she's in Texas. Texas is supposed to be pretty good, you know, not too expensive. So basically you basically have a formula. It's like algebra. I know some people can't remember algebra, but basically 0.04 times your number equals 50,000, right? Whatever the number, whatever you said you needed to live off of, you put at the end of the equation. So 0.04 is 4%. And then you have to figure out, well, what is that? Well, to solve that, you have to take 50,000 divided by 0.04 and you get $1,250,000. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, that's the formula. So written another way, $50,000 times 25 times equals $1.25 million. So what does that mean? It means in order to make 50,000 a year, you save $1,250,000 in 100% stock portfolio and take out 4%. And you're free. The reason he says that, he says historically the stock market grows at like 8% or 6 or something. So if you're taking out 4%, you're taking out less than the growth. So over time, your stocks will grow even though you're taking money out.
Nice.
So that's what he says. Now, he also says in the beginning of his book, he does realize that when he started doing this, it was the end of basically it was the Great Recession, right? When the stock market was really low. And when he started doing this program, the stock market has been going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, right? Yeah. And this year, it's not in his book, but this year the stock market has gone down 20% since the beginning of the year, which is the largest decrease in the stock market. I don't know how many years, 50 years, whatever. So we're having an extreme decrease in stock market performance this year, right? Which hasn't happened in his lifetime. In Grant's lifetime, that's never happened. So past results do not guarantee the future, is what I'm trying to say. He says that in his book too. Historically, the stock market has grown. So this strategy will only work if the stock market keeps growing. So what did Grant do this year? I don't know. I didn't ask him. His stock portfolio declined 20% this year, right? So far, right? So if you saved $1 million, it's worth 800,000, right? Does that make sense? It's not worth $1 million anymore. Yeah. Because it's just stocks. He just has it pure stocks. Now, I don't know. I don't remember if he has it pure stocks or part bonds, but he has a table that shows, you know, how much stocks to bonds, and if you take the money out, what percentage of success rate will you have? But that's the basic idea. Do you have any questions?
No.
Yeah, the rest of the book is all about how to get to that number.
Right.
Like, how do you save up 1.25
Does
million?
he share any strategies of, excuse me, the same type of stock or?
No, index funds. Index funds.
Just index funds.
Index funds. He shows his portfolio in the book too. He has, it's mostly just index funds, right? Straight like the stock, like S&P or the general market, you know, index funds. Yeah. He does have some stocks in particular, like Apple or something. I don't remember, but that's not the majority of his portfolio. And he said there were like 12 of them originally, and his portfolio only shows maybe like Apple and a couple others, but that's because the other ones were losers and he sold them when they lost him money. Okay, so it's not like he was 100% great on individual stock picking, you know. So most of it is an index fund. So basically, if you, according to his theory, right, you pick your number. Oh, I can live off 50,000 a year. So you save up 1.25 million. Basically, every time you get paid, so like you're starting a piano studio, right? Let's say your income is increased by 4 times. So instead of taking that money and improving your lifestyle, you take like you take the money you were making to live off of, right? And you keep living off of it. And then the increase, you put it all towards stock index, like 100% stock. That's basically what he's saying, right? Every extra side hustle, and he side hustled. He has a whole chapters on how to do side hustles. He has chapters on how to reduce your rent. You know, he talks about lawyers who were like sharing rooms, you know, they're making like so much money, but they're living in a house and just living in one room, you know? So, I mean, he's talking about being frugal, taking all the extra money you make, getting gigs, doing everything you can, shoving it in a stock portfolio until it gets to $1 million. And he says you don't have to save an actual $1 million because the stocks grew while he was saving, right? Does that make sense? Because he was saving when the stock market was basically going up, right? So even though he saved like, maybe he saved like, I don't know, say it was 600,000 or whatever. It became $1 million or less or something. I think he said he saved like $500,000, but it became $1 million because the stock market kept growing. So by 2015, he had saved enough to retire.
Nice.
So that's what he did. That's exactly what he did. And then the rest of it, like I said, the rest of the book talks about how to side hustle, how to budget your money, how to make sure you know, how to have a good intention. Like, this is what I'm doing. Once you know, and he has a point. Once you have a strategy and it starts working, like if you start putting aside money, he said after you get a certain point, it feels like it's working more because the money grows faster, right? When you start off, it doesn't feel like anything's happening. Right? You're just putting money in, it's just there, right? But after you hit, I forgot the number, maybe 100,000 or something, it starts to really grow on its own, in addition to you putting money in, and you get more excited about it. And because you're more excited about it, you're more likely to put more money in it because you know it's working. Now, if you started this year, you probably feel like crap because the money you put in is worth less than what you know, if you started in January, you know, and you put in like 10,000, it's worth 8 now. So you're probably like, okay, this sucks. But I mean, it depends on, you know, and he said, you know, of course there's going to be down markets, and the historical data was for like 50 years or something. So even though there's down markets, the average is that it grows it, you know. He says if there's a down market, see if you can not take anything out. Like, see if you can still work your side hustles. And a point he says is if you do this now when you're younger, it's better, because if there is a down market and you have to work, you still can because you're young enough to still work.
Right.
So you don't have to be like, oh my God, what else gonna, you already have the money. If there's one down year, you just work, you know, your side hustles or whatever you figured out while you were getting there. So he's very practical. He's not, you know, it makes sense. So that's it for today. Thanks for being on. I hope you got value out of it. I put the formula in my blog for anyone who wants to do that. I'll put in more information too as well when I write it up more detailed. But
You put it in a way that, you know, that it's easy enough where people should say, no excuses. It's just simple. Just put money inside of index funds. You know?
well, I mean, just as a honest, I mean, I do that. I've read enough studies by now that I do put money in index funds. Low, and he also talks about that. You know, you want to pick an index fund with a very low management fee, right? Maybe Vanguard or another one that low management fee, you know, automated index fund. Not, you don't want a financial manager who takes a cut out of your money, right? Because if you have someone who's charging you 1%, then you can't take out 4, you can only take out 3 because the financial manager is taking out 1% of your money, right? So you don't want that. So he does talk about that too, you know, straight index funds. And I do that for our retirement accounts. I'm not as aggressive as him, right? Because I don't feel as confident about the stock market as he does. But that doesn't mean I'm not saving into index funds. I am. So, I mean, there you have it. And if you do have $1 million in index funds, you probably will feel a lot more secure. Think about it. All right. Well, anyway, that's it. Have a great day, guys. Check out the blog post. The link is right below. Okay. Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks. Happy Labor Day.